What's up, brother?
How you doing, Craig?
I'm good, man.
Are we live?
We are. Yeah, I'm hearing
Awesome.
the audio feedback for the call through my headphones. It's kind of weird, but I think I could get used to it.
Are you always this soft spoken?
Uh, yeah, I would say so. The last
Okay.
uh, the last call, my mic was like really toned down compared to Rico's. He had like a lapel mic, and
Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to offer.
yeah. Let me check if I can get the audio working right.
So just for anybody that does view this or is viewing right now, I've actually never met Craig before, but we've ran in similar circles. So we're going to get to know each other here live on the air.
Yeah, I've seen you around a lot, man. You have quite a presence online. So like,
Thank you.
yeah. You make
Okay,
quite a
so
presence.
had you ever heard of the Data Center Nuke Group before today?
I have heard of it. I just haven't joined it. I haven't been on social media at all for the last couple of years, like at all. Ironic that I'm doing this, but I basically wanted to do something that I've always wanted to do, kind of feedback into the ecosystem of something that really fed my soul back in the day, and then also complete the task of like networking and like getting myself out there in a way that I thought was like really authentic. So I have not been on, you know, I see you're an admin on there on Facebook.
Yes, yes. So the Data Center Nuke Group was kind of born from another bigger group called the Navy Nuke Job Finder. Are you familiar with that group?
Yes.
Yeah. So Navy Nuke Job Finder, ironically, I was a Navy Nuke. I got out in 2015, and I didn't find out about the Navy Nuke Job Finder until I became a recruiter for the civilian world. And had I had that group, I probably never would have career pivoted into a recruiting role. So essentially, my story is, I got out of the Navy in 2015. I actually interviewed with AWS way back when. The job was in Northern Virginia, right where you're at right now. My wife and kids had already moved back to Ohio. So I was kind of dead set and hell bent on getting back to Ohio, and it ended up accepting like a field service role in the biomed industry. But I was looking for a new job 4 years later. Nothing in Ohio was really paying what I needed it to. And I kind of took a leap of faith, and it was like right around the time like all the 10-year guys were getting out. So I did 6 and out. A lot of the people I was in with, the people from the pipeline that were getting out around like the 8, 9, 10-year mark, were like, hey, how do I get a job? So I kind of started working with them. Just kind of and like I learned everything from LinkedIn sitting at airports. Like I used to read like Michael Quinn and like all these like early LinkedIn influencers on like what I was supposed to be doing to like effectively network and stuff. Um, and it didn't really click at the time, but I knew more than I knew when I got out, right? So I started helping people, referred enough people over to Orion Talent that they were like, hey, like, have you ever considered doing this for a profession? And then like my first month at Orion Talent, one of the other recruiters was like, hey, you're a nuke, you should join this group, the Name Nuke Job Finder, and post your jobs in there. And I was like, what's that? And then I get in there and I see all these job postings and all this networking that's going on. And I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. I could have used this group 3 months ago. So Name a Nuke Job Finder, it has like 18 to 20,000 nukes in it. And once I became a recruiter and started recruiting for data centers, I was talking about data centers so much that people got sick of it. And we kind of spun off and started the data center nuke group. I didn't personally start it. Another guy, David, who I'm friends with, started it. I don't remember exactly how I became an admin, but I was very, pro for having a spinoff group. But that's probably 5, 6, 7 years ago now, and I don't think any of us knew what the data center industry was going to grow into today, right? Like it is crazy. We've got like 8 to 10,000 people just in the data center group now, and yeah, it's been a little bit of a wild ride.
So your whole life right now, professionally, is just like feeding back to the community and connecting people into this like industry because it fits. It fits like a good puzzle piece, man. Like the whole thing is totally makes sense to me in terms of like why this could be a sustainable career in terms of just like connecting nukes directly into this, because I think data centers in general need nukes. They need that operational, like that mindset, that like strict operational compliance, because like as we increase in scale and scope and all that stuff, the risk just increases every single day. The protocols and like the policy and basically the way we operate, there is potential danger just in general, and it takes somebody who has the critical thinking skills of a nuke and that like sensitivity to operations to come into the industry and be able to like, you know, fill those gaps until a company can like create the frameworks that like the mechanisms that allow them to operate sustainably for a long time. So it totally makes sense to me why you do what you do. Like what feeds your soul, man? Like you do this every day. Obviously, I can tell that you're driven because you're so engaged. It's partially like what you do, but I'm just curious, like, do you love what you do in terms of like, do you just get dragged into it every day? Is this something you're drawn to, just like sustainably? Like, do you see yourself burning out? Do you have rough days? Like, what does it look like, man? What's reality?
So for 7 years, I lived, ate, and breathed the Navy nuclear community. Like thousands of posts, thousands of comments, making myself available, 24/7, 365 for people. So I was in field service. I ended up leaving a major company, going to a smaller company, and like I was commissioning, multi-million-dollar toxicology and blood labs around the country fighting the opioid epidemic. But at no point, when setting that up, did I really feel a job satisfaction. But the first time somebody called me back and was like, over the moon, I got the job, man. I went through Orion Talent, like you referred me. I went and got my job. The transition is going to be a lot smoother. We know where we're going. We know how much money we're going to make. That's when I realized that I actually might enjoy this career, right? Because, I was always a mediocre electrician. I was an electrician's mate in the Navy. I was an MEP commissioning person in the biology or the biomed space. But I was mediocre at best, right? Very book smart, very top of my class throughout, the pipeline and in school. But real world practicality, man, I was always the person that when I went to start something up, I was crossing my fingers and I was like, please don't smoke or explode. And it worked out well for me, more times than not. And I was doing really well for myself, but I can't say that I loved that job. But the first time I helped place someone into their next career and just feeling that relief through the phone from them and that burden that's been lifted off of them, like, that's when I really realized that, like, there's that idiom, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I was like, maybe there really is something to this, right? One of my major problems of being in the Navy and being a nuke was that I'm a social butterfly, just like with this podcast, right? I just love to talk. I love to talk to people. I love to be talking and learning. And, my brain's always going 100 miles an hour. So I just kind of had a knack for it. But for 7 straight years from 2019 until here just recently, like, it's all I did. I set no boundaries. And, I kind of, my main goal was just give back to the veteran community the way that I wish somebody would have gave back to me. And that included, like, 2 a.m. phone calls with people that were suicidal, waking up at 4 a.m. to talk to somebody that was stationed on a ship in the middle of the Mediterranean or whatever the case may be, right? And people could really feel that. And like, as the word kind of got out that, because there's all kinds of horror stories. If you go to Reddit, LinkedIn, people hate recruiters. But I wanted to be the change that I wanted to see in the world. And I've always said this, and I'll probably say it till the day I die. Like, I'm a veteran first and a veterans advocate second, and then third is, whatever job I'm doing, right? So, like, I never tried to talk anybody into a job that I didn't think they should take, or that I wouldn't take myself. And it kind of spiraled from there. But got the opportunity to go and build Align data centers. I was like the first person in talent acquisition. I was employee number 97. and I, bit off exactly as much as I could chew. And like, that's when I really kind of found my groove. Working for an agency, you have a small salary, and a lot of your life depends on commissions. But I always kind of viewed it this way, right? Like, to me, yeah, it's a bigger paycheck, but to this person on the other end of the phone, it's going to change their entire life trajectory, right? So I'm not pushing them into something that I don't think is truly the best for them. I'm not going to hard close a deal on someone to get, a placement fee and pad my paycheck a little bit. That was kind of my philosophy. So when I had the opportunity to go internal, I wasn't unhappy in my current role. It was awesome. I got to recruit for probably 500 different companies over the time period there, and it was cool. Every time I talked to a veteran, hey, where do you want to go? Wherever they wanted to go, kind of whatever they wanted to do, I had something to offer them. But when I was contemplating going into an internal recruiting role, I was like, I wonder what it's like to see how these people pan out, right? Because when you're an agency recruiter, you place them, you might follow up with them a couple of times, say, hey, how it's going. But pretty much after that 90-day cool off period, because basically most agreements, if they don't stay 90 days, you don't get paid. You got to give them a replacement or something. But usually once they hit that 90-day mark, I didn't always hear from them. I didn't always check in on them, things like that. So I thought it would be really cool to kind of find out, what it would be like to see if it was a good hire or not. Like, where does this person go? Are they the high performer I thought they would be, and things like that. And going internal was the best move I ever made. Aligned Data Centers is, one of the best companies that I've ever worked for or with. Probably out of 1,000 different companies now that I've worked for or with in this capacity. Just a phenomenal opportunity, and we can go into that in a little bit. But what am I doing day to day now? I actually burnt myself out, Craig. The boundary thing, I didn't set them. I'm telling you, like, people were messaging me Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday night, Sunday at 2 a.m. Like, they didn't care, and I didn't set the boundaries properly. So, like, it eventually got to me. I don't blame any of them. I blame myself, completely. And like, don't get me wrong, I've always had my phone set up to where it's not like it was waking me up in the middle of the night, but like, first thing when you wake up at 8 a.m., you've got these 3 messages from people that need your help. And, I felt like this moral obligation that, like, I'm not going to be that guy that doesn't get back to him, because like a 10-minute phone call with me can unlock so many avenues and doors for people. And it's like, I used to describe it as, people getting out of the military and trying to navigate the civilian job market. You're playing a game, but you don't get the rule book, right? So you have to learn kind of as you go. And there's so much trial and error, and so many, things that can deter people. But like a 10-minute phone call with me, and I hold those free seminars in the Navy Nuke Job Finder, and I call it peeking behind the curtain. And like, I tell people, what it's really like on this side of the table. What is a recruiter really doing day to day? Why aren't they getting back to you? And kind of things like that. So like, I just burnt myself out. I left Stream Data Centers in October of last year. I started Uptime Talent because I was kind of semi-retired and running my own business, right? I didn't know what my next step was. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that, like, my mission was to continue giving back in some way, shape, or form. So I started Uptime Talent. I did no business development. If something landed in my lap that I thought could benefit the nuclear community, I would jump at it, and I would make some money and things like that. And I do keep saying nuke, but man, I've worked with every branch. I've worked with every form and flavor of veteran, and I've helped a ton of civilian people too. There was a random guy that reached out to me from Reddit. I'm not going to say his name, but he's working at a data center company right now, because I guess people were talking about me on Reddit. I don't know if it was in the nuke forum or the data center forum, or where he found me. I really never asked, but he reached out to me. I gave him, a 30-minute free call, told him exactly what to do, what to study, how to apply, how to follow up, and everything. And like within 30, 60 days, he was messaging me, letting me know that he landed a job. And like he had no military experience, no mission critical experience. And it's just like, the passion is like workforce development, but not necessarily helping those people that are already super marketable or already know what they're doing, but giving that person the hand up, right? Because at the core of people, I think a lot of them are more capable than we give them credit for. And, unlocking their potential kind of became my passion.
It's so funny. So everything you say is echoing badly, and I thank you for talking about your passion so deeply. But I'm like having a hard time focusing. Episode 2, live. This is what happens. I'm kind of glad this happened, and I want to continue our conversation. I don't want to cut it short, but I'm desperately trying to figure out how to stop the feedback right now. But to pick up on what you were saying, even though it's impossibly difficult to focus, it sounds like, yeah, you found your passion. Giving back to the community is something you care about. You and I definitely have this in common. Anytime somebody comes into my office and I can set a time for them to like help them figure out their career, like sewing into somebody else is like everything to me. Rico and I talked about this a lot on episode 1, but I find that people who are like really driven, usually they're not really focused on themselves. They find that like their cup will always be full as long as they're just helping the community or helping other people. And it seems like the way you can scale yourself doing that is how... Check.
I hear you.
Wait. Nope. But yeah, if you can scale that, whatever that is for you, whatever your skill set is, if you can scale it beyond just yourself or your immediate surroundings, that ends up resulting in like major success, and usually something that drives you to work every day. So I don't know, man. I kind of want to ask an intrusive question about like what makes you tick, or how you think, or like what is your ultimate goal? Like I don't want to ask where you see yourself in 5 years in terms of like a company, but like the community that you're a part of, like data centers in general, where we're headed. Where do you think, A, the industry is headed, and like B, where do you see yourself in that mix? Or like in a perfect world, like what would you be doing in 5 years? What would your life look like? Like what would every day you wake up and do X? Like what would that look like for you?
I'll say today when I woke up, I'm living exactly the life that I would create in a video game. I'm incredibly blessed in so many ways, and I kind of alluded to the fact that I did it for 7 years and I burnt myself out. And I think that I've taken a huge step back. You won't see me as active on social media. You won't see me posting as much. I would say 90% of what I do post is scheduled posts, right? And like I don't doom scroll through the feed a lot. Typically it's 5 to 10 minutes and then I'm back offline. Very similar to yourself, right? Like social media is great in many, many forms and fashions, but too much of a good thing is a bad thing. And I was able to excel so much in my role because of just, it wasn't rocket science or I'm a genius or anything. It was just sheer effort and will and activity, right? The same way you've heard of me or seen me online or at some point, right? But you can't really pinpoint it. It's just that I was so active, man. And like it 30 minutes wouldn't go by from somebody else posting in the group, looking for a job before I would be commenting on it. And a lot of times I'm commenting on it in the first 5 minutes, and like it was just unhealthy. So I did a career pivot. I do electrical sales now. I sell the equipment back to the data centers, and I would say it's maybe my dream job because I still get to help the veteran community. But I also get to use my technical and engineering mind. The reason I became a Navy nuke was because I had that mind. The Navy, nuclear program kind of enhanced and developed that technical and engineering mindset. And like now I'm back, providing critical power solutions to the data center industry. Where do I see myself in the industry in 5 years? I think that's the $1 million question that everybody wants to know right now. Even Tucker Carlson is, for whatever reason, posting rapidly about data centers. I saw 2 posts today from Tucker, just because I get the notifications. That's about AI and data centers. And at the end of the day, I don't pretend to know what the end goal of all this compute capacity is. I don't know, but the nerd inside of me loves it. I love being part of the fifth industrial revolution. And like it's kind of cool to be able to say, I helped build one of the most awesome tech companies. Align sold last year for $40 billion. And I brought all of those people in from my basement office in rural Ohio. So like I was a remote employee. I'm just, like a kid from Ohio. I come from a poor background. Nobody in my family before my generation had ever been a college graduate or, gone into corporate America or anything like that. We were very blue collar. We were very, down to earth people. Um, I got the honor and privilege of doing some community engagement when I was, the head of talent acquisition, because acquisition and community engagement kind of go hand in hand. People want to know what jobs you're going to bring them. They want to know what qualifications they need. They want to know, what does it pay? What kind of benefits am I going to get? So like just talking in the community, they can feel that excitement in me because like this industry opened up everything for me and my family. And it's done that for literally thousands of veterans, including you, including Rico, right? It gives you this path where you can go from blue collar when you first start, right? I'm assuming you started probably as a hands-on technician, and then you can, perform and excel and develop and get into those white collar roles. And um, there's a lot of negative feedback for the data center industry right now. A lot of it's very either untrue or unfair. Some of it is true. I'm not pretending like it's all rainbows and butterflies, right? But I think it's a bit of a scapegoat for the stress that people feel in their day-to-day lives now, right? Um, but data centers are a little bit under attack. But the reason I brought up Tucker Carlson was, he kind of articulated it well. What is the end goal of building out all of this capacity? What happens when AI succeeds and nobody has a job because we're all living a life of abundance because the robots are growing the food and the robots are keeping the lights on, and what is your purpose at that point, and things like that. So it's very, and like think about where we were in 2020 compared to now, right? When I first got into this industry, if you were talking about a 5 megawatt campus, you were kind of a big deal. If you're talking about 25, 40 megawatts, like, hey man, that's a big data center. And now you're talking, a 9.6 gigawatt campus here in Southern Ohio, one county over from me. And like those numbers and things, it's just mind boggling. So like the acceleration is on, right? So that change that we saw in the last 6 years, I think we see even more of a change in the next 6 years. Hopefully we get the SMRs coming. I think nuclear power had a bad rap, kind of like the data centers are getting right now for, 40, 50 years. And, now people are finally coming around that, it is the best way to produce power, like power generation, clean fuel, all of that stuff. Like the answer is nuclear, but the NRC was written for light water reactors. So like all these people that are trying to progress and push the envelope, like they're up against it because, all the regulations of the NRC were written for a light water reactor, and it's not the most efficient. It's not the way to do it. It's not the way to commercialize it. So hopefully we get those online, along with a lot more power production from natural gas, from solar, from all of the other methods too. But I think this is the evolution that we didn't know we needed.
Yes. I know really good friend of mine named John McClure. I don't know if he'd want me name dropping him, but he's working on one of many startups basically working on SMR technology in order to sustain this thing. So you talked about a whole lot there. Getting used to the feedback in my headphones. The experience is interesting.
I tried to talk a little softer so that maybe it wouldn't echo as bad.
Yeah, it's definitely not you. It's definitely my settings. It's definitely
it could be the
virtual
data center I'm sitting in right here.
Yeah. We will have to do this again for sure, but that doesn't mean we can't have good conversation right now. But because you touched on something really interesting, man, and that's like, what is all this for? Where's all this headed? We're going to use, the demand is high. Obviously, like demand drives market innovation. We're going to have nuclear in data centers eventually. You're talking about the fact that if you would have said like, oh, I had 5 megawatts at one point in time, that was a huge deal. And now it's like 500, whatever. So SMRs are absolutely happening. I don't think that's an argument anymore. If anybody is arguing that that's not a thing, they're just not aware of like demand drives innovation, demand drives utility. We don't even have the utility pad. The grid can't support these data centers, and the demand is extremely high. AI is the future. Who knows where it heads? But SMRs are imminent. Like that's happening. And I think it would be good. I would hope maybe in 20, 30 years, any major piece of infrastructure around the world from a reliability standpoint, from like a resilience standpoint, would have their own, they'd be producing their own power on site. They wouldn't be relying on the grid, because the grid is like a major, it's a giant multiple points of failure system that we're just used to, and we just accept that. But anywhere along the line, a problem on the grid could cause a problem for your individual site. We don't allow that kind of design in the data centers themselves. I don't want to talk too much about like vulnerabilities and stuff like that. But right now, yeah, the system has to change, and it will change over time. Where all this is headed, now that's a topic I'd like to talk about. It seems to be a hot topic. People are conflicted about it. People are curious.
What's your theory on it?
I don't have, like you, man, I don't know. But
yeah, so I love that. I don't pretend to know. And just disclaimer, anything I say on this podcast, it's only representative of myself. And I am a guy that knows maybe 1%. So I don't pretend to be the expert or the know-it-all on anything. I was very much that arrogant person in my 20s that thought I had it all figured out. And then just, this whole evolution and aging myself. What are you, Craig? Probably about 37.
Wow, that is my age.
I'm pretty good. So I'm 36. I'll be 37 later this year. And I can't wait to see what the next 37 years hold. But very, very humbled in my 30s versus the arrogant person I was in my 20s. And I think that's something this industry gave me too, was just like one of the coolest interview processes I ever had was with Align Data Centers, because every person I talked to on the phone, I knew within 48 seconds they were smarter than me. Knew it. And like I just kind of shut up and listened, and like, dude, just being around those people, rubbing shoulders with them, some of the greatest minds of our time, and just kind of sucking it all in, and then realizing like, you don't know anything.
Dude, I love it. Yeah, good for you, man. Having that like level of awareness, that's strong. That's powerful. I don't think I gained that or was even willing to admit that until like way later in my career. Now I like find value in myself enough to not feel like I need to check. Didn't work. trying to fix my audio. But yeah, it took me a long time to be able to admit stuff like that. I feel like people find success as soon as they can start being really honest. You know, as soon as they can start being honest, stop telling themselves lies. And I'm not talking about like straight up lies. I'm talking about like sneaky little, tiny little things, like saying, I don't have to do that till tomorrow, or that person, they don't want to talk to me, or you know, I need to prove everybody here I'm smart, you know, like stuff like that. So like, I'm starting to see how you think, and we have a lot of things in common. Aside, maybe if you were running this, it'd be a little more professional. But not. Regarding the AI thing, so yeah, I don't know. It either ends us all, or we reach Star Trek, utopia. You find your own meaning, and we all learn how to do that, or somewhere in between. And somewhere in between is the honest answer for at least some period of time until one of the other extremes comes true. But I feel like stuff that we have in science fiction usually is like a hint of like what's to come. It's people dreaming up a future, and then over time, engineers and scientists and whoever, they make it happen because we're visualizing it. Whatever you can imagine, as soon as you can put your hands on something and start to make it real, that's what us humans will do. And we're going to do that same thing with AI. It's going to be nefarious. It's going to be awesome and utopian. It's going to be a mix of the two. Right? I mean, I'm not.
I think you nailed it, man. We're living out the plot of a sci-fi movie, and there's gonna be bad actors, right? Just the same way there's evil villains in a movie. Some people are gonna try to use it to their advantage in unethical or immoral ways. But I think overall is like the American population, and I keep this with America because I've exclusively lived in America. I've exclusively dealt with the American data center industry, and because we have 6,000 of these data centers, right? So, but the American people, I think, are at least 51% good. So it's my hope that we never get to that extreme of the nefarious style, right? Will we ever get to utopia? I've talked to some of the greatest minds in the industry, and I've listened to the godfather of AI, Mark Andreessen, and stuff like that, and they seem to believe we might get there. And I think that would be a really interesting thing to see for the human race. And what a time to be alive when you don't have to get up and worry about feeding your family every day or something like that, right? You just get to live life every single day, and become a creator, right? Because it was actually
Well, next time you're here, we'll absolutely have you over, man. Would love to have you over. Me, you, and Rico, or just me and you. I'll probably be doing this every Tuesday, so next time you're in town.
Oh, okay. That's the cycle for this little Taco Tuesday episodes.
Kinda. I mean, that's what worked out for me and Rico, but that could change. But I just want to do it consistently because I love it. I freaking love it.
And dude, I've wanted to start a podcast like this for a long time, and my thought was, even if no one ever watches it, I am now eternalized on the web, and like my kids, my grandkids, some random person that runs across my name could look me up and kind of get to know who I was and what I was and what I was about. And not to get too philosophical, but like I feel like I've lived several lives already. The nuclear navy was a life in itself, and you leave reality. You stop following your sports teams because you're on a submarine, or you stop following your sports teams because you're deployed on a carrier, or you lose touch with some of the people back home. And then I returned home eventually, and everybody's different. And I recently had a death in the family of my cousin's grandpa, who was very much a grandpa to me, and I hadn't seen that, like, those cousins in 20, 25 years or something like that. And we picked up like nothing ever left off. And Yeah, dude, I think this is great. Whether people watch it or not, like that doesn't matter to me. You know, I've never understood the human obsession with money, right? Because money is a man-made concept, and keeping up with the Joneses and brand loyalty and stuff. Like, back in the day, it made sense to pay extra money to get a Mercedes because they were the safest, most reliable, great engineering, things like that. But like outside of that, man, like if it's not giving me a real advantage, I don't care at all about money. Like, and that's why I really think it would be so interesting to reach that kind of utopia state where there's like a universal basic income and people can kind of, live less stress because I had my first kid when I was 20 years old as an E3 in the Navy, and living paycheck to paycheck for years and years after that because I thought it was a genius idea to have three more kids, right? And kids are expensive. And, so like I know what that stress is of being lower class or lower middle class or whatever you want to describe it as. And if we can push this industry far enough to ease that burden for millions of people, like I think that's a beautiful thing, man.
Yes. All right. I found out the setting without killing the audio on the podcast itself. I'm just going to leave it up, but I'll probably the first one did get 100 views. And I think it's because me and Rico were wildly vulnerable about everything. And you seem to be doing the same thing, man. Talking about, I used to care about money a lot. And I think like the audience for this podcast, mic check, can you still hear me? I'm imagining you're not just looking at me politely.
I have no idea what you just said.
Check. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Yeah. So I imagine the people who are watching this, LinkedIn is a community of people who are looking for jobs, looking for careers, looking for fulfillment, trying to network. A lot of that is money oriented. So I think speaking to not having the love of money and just even being required to being attached to the idea of it would be great. It becomes pure at that point because like right now, the value you provide to the world is not necessarily aligned directly with your income. If you could have your basic needs met, your stress is lower, you're less likely to do weird stuff in order to obtain cash.
I like how you said weird stuff.
Weird stuff. I mean, it can be anything from like being dishonest at work to doing weird stuff, like
right. Yeah,
it could be anything, dude. But universal basic income is an awesome idea. People get so caught up on like in like politics over like capitalism's good, capitalism's bad. But the truth is, as the system itself, the capitalistic system, provides infrastructure to sustainably give everybody a basic right, it would be good just to make that readily available to everybody to give them the ability to live and breathe. We already subsidize a lot around the world. There's a lot of like government assistance for things. If that becomes an even more sustainable program, that ends up turning into universal basic income pretty organically over time. The idea of, I love what you're saying, man. Just like this lack of attachment to cash. I imagine, I'm trying not to repeat what Rico and I talked about last podcast. This one probably will have people log off in the first couple of minutes just due to the audio issues. But I'll make a commitment. I won't mention it one more time while we chat. Yeah, man. Finding purpose outside of money. I think it's a privileged thing. I think like a lot of people don't have the convenience. They don't have the they can't. They have to focus on grinding. They have to focus on making money. The irony is you probably won't make all the money you need until you stop focusing on it itself. I think if I had to tell anybody, as somebody who earns enough, if there's anybody out there who ever does watch this or tolerates the ridiculous audio issue somehow, I mentioned it again. I would say strike one. I would say, you just got to let go and just focus on providing value. And that's rough. That's like impossible to do. But life will usually sustain you. You can ask for help. Never be afraid of asking for help while always trying not to need it. But you should, you know. I don't know. It's weird. You have to like find it. I think to kind of wrap it up in a bow slightly, you have to paradigm shift even before reality represents it for you. You know, like you just have to trust. You have to hear something and go, that's probably true, and just go with it, even though the short-term sacrifice is really tough, man. I know there's been a couple of times in my life where I started taking actions in accordance with something I thought was going to result in a better life. And it takes a really long time, you know, longer than you want it, to get the results. As soon as they come, you're like, oh, that was easy, you know, or that, like, obviously that was going to happen. But there is a dead period where, like, you're grinding away at something and it just seems like nothing's going to come from it.
Oh, 100%. And I think I was stuck in that from the day I had my first kid until, recently in the past 4 or 5 years. I was grinding so hard to try to gain ground that you don't have the time or the inclination to be reflective, right? And it was an interview question when I was interviewing with Aligned Data Centers, where somebody asked me. He said, "What are you most proud of out of your entire career? Like, don't say your kids. Like, I'm not talking personal, but like in your career, like, what are you most proud of?" And I stopped for like probably a solid minute of silence because I was like, I'll be honest, I've never even thought about that. Like, if all this time and all this effort and this work I'm putting in, have I done anything that like I'm proud of? And like, it was kind of like then that I started kind of shifting to that more reflective person. And um, I think journaling is good for everyone. I wish I kept a better journal because, like, I would love to go back and read the stuff 20-year-old idiot me thought, and 25-year-old, a little less of an idiot me thought. And, like, um, it would be great. And, like, as you get older, you realize the memory on your computer is way better than the memory in your brain, right? And uh, as you put new things in, some things leave, and you might need a smell or a song or a melody or something to trigger a good memory. They might be buried deep inside there, but yeah, man, just I think that like doing this and recording you and your thoughts and being raw with people, like this is kind of like your video journal, man. And like you'll be able to look back on this in 10 years, God willing, and be like, yo, that was me. And like I saw this trend, Dad, what were you like in the 90s? And it was like a lot of people in their 40s and 50s, like mostly celebrities. And like it cuts the like rock star, Trent Reznor, I think is his name, whoever the lead singer of the Goo Goo Dolls is. I probably just botched that because I'm terrible with music stuff. I think that actually might have been a completely different band, but whoever the lead singer of that was, that's the one that I saw. And like it cuts from him being like an old dad to like him being a rock star. And I'm like, man, like to have your life documented like that, and just, I don't care if anybody else ever watches it. I want to go back and see it. I want to be able
Yeah.
to be like, hey, go watch your dad on that podcast. I used to know some stuff.
Dude, I'm going to have you on again for sure. Yeah. So I agree with you. Rico mentioned this. He talked about his grandfather, and how he knows a lot about him, but he just wants that legacy. I think we all want a little bit of legacy. Being reflective is good. For me, this is kind of like my journal, I think. And it's also, I have figured out that I'll never know everything, and I'll never be as smart as, what I would consider enough to be, or like a previous version of me considered to be enough. And I'm infinitely okay with that. So yeah, man, being raw is valuable in general.
Yeah, being a real human, man. And I think we get desensitized to that with how good movies and TV are now, how much time people spend on social media, how much people fake it, right? Like we could get 1,000 views if we wanted, Craig. All we got to do is just start arguing with each other. I'm gonna cuss you out and storm out. We're gonna post, dude crashes out on podcast, and thousands of people are probably going to click that, and we might even go viral and get millions of views.
For what?
Right? But like that's I'm not going to pander to the views, right? Like we could be dramatic if we wanted to. I'm sure we could tell some raunchy sea stories or two, and things like that, right? And get some more views, and maybe one day we will. Because it would bring attention to the organic, awesome other parts of the podcast. But yeah, man, I think this is great. I love that I'm a part of it at the beginning on episode 2. And I've been a part of people's origin story before.
Yeah.
You want a quick, completely off topic, random story?
Dude,
all right. Do you have access to Google right now?
Yeah, of course.
All right, Google this guy, Joe Hollywood. Just type in Joe Hollywood. So Joe Hollywood is now like one of the biggest personalities in sports cards, and he streams and live streams and does events and all this stuff. He's probably a millionaire, a few times over at least by now. I met this guy in a grungy little Discord, and I got to know him, and I thought he was just a genuinely good and interesting person. And I used to go into his shows, and I would spend, anywhere from $50 to $100 just trying to support him. I didn't want any of his stuff. I didn't think he was really entertaining. I just was like, this is a good guy, and I'm going to give it to him. And like, all of a sudden, one day I went in and he had hundreds of viewers. And then, a few months later, I went back in and he had thousands of viewers. And I just was like, this is so cool. No one will ever even think about Joe in his basement streaming with one single camera, and nobody wanted anything. Like, he's Joe Hollywood now.
Dude, I appreciate you saying that. Can I go back to something you mentioned earlier and kind of dig into something that I think is applicable to maybe the average listener that I'm kind of targeting?
Sure.
You talked about burning out. Have you had any thought, like right now, you say you wake up, life is great, right? But have you ever had any thoughts? I'm not asking if you've dwelled on it. I'm not looking for that. I'm just looking if you have any thoughts on like what you would do now differently to prevent burnout. Or like, do you think it's just not for you? Or like if you had gone down that path and just like committed to it, like what actions you would have taken, like wherever you were, to like prevent burnout in general?
Yeah. So, I mean, I thought I was immortal, man. I thought that I could supersede all the limits of humanity. I'd stayed up, days in a row sometimes, in the military. I could work harder than everyone else. I could be that accessible. But at the end of the day, man, I'm just a mortal human, right? And if I could go back and do it again, it would have been easy not to burn out. I had an open PTO policy, and I didn't want to take PTO because I loved our mission. I loved my team. I loved the people that we worked with. And like, don't get me wrong, I took my family on vacation, but like I would still have my phone in my hand, or I would still jump on a call because like, and number one, that's not great leadership. If you can't walk away from your team and trust that they're going to handle things, you're not doing that great. And it was never, if they ever listen to this, guys, it was never that I didn't trust you. It's just that I literally loved working with you so much. I loved what we were doing so much. And like, dude, at my core, I've been a nerd since the day I was born. I used to hide from my, like, other kids will get in trouble for staying up late playing video games or watching TV. I used to get in trouble because I would hide in my closet with a flashlight to read more books. And like my parents would come and find me with a sleeping bag in the bottom of my closet and, rip me a new one because it's 11 o'clock at night on a school night. So it was just like, this industry is fascinating, man. And like every minute you spend inside of it, every minute you spend talking with people, you learn more and more, and it just becomes more fascinating to me. And like, I wasn't always the best student, but it's because like I feel like I'm a non-traditional learner. Like I was never great in school. I was good in school because I was smart enough to pass the tests, and public school doesn't really make it that hard for you and things like that. But like it's not like I was ever getting 100% in classes or anything, right? So like what like just being in the recruiting position and like getting to recruit for a position that I don't know anything about, right? So like let me back up a little bit. When I was recruiting for data centers as an agency recruiter, I was recruiting basically just nukes and military veterans and mostly operations. And I thought I knew about data centers, man. And then I go inside of a data center company and I'm building out a company person by person, position by position. And I'm like, I didn't even know anybody did this. So like then that would become even more fascinating. And then like because of the position I had, people wanted to talk to me because they wanted the job, and I wanted to talk to them to learn what they're currently doing, what they plan to do in this role. Like one of the stories I like to tell is I didn't know there's people out there right now today that spent their entire day buying and selling power. There are literal people at power desks, power traders, like that are buying and selling power. They might buy it during a low period and sell it during a peak period for more. I don't pretend to really understand what they do like at a finite level, but man, talking to those people and letting them educate me on what they did, why they did it, how the markets work, what a deregulated market versus a regulated market look like, and then like learning that, hey, this person that's in this market probably isn't good for this job because their market is completely different. Even though it's a state in the United States, it's so different that it's basically a foreign country the way they have to procure power and stuff. So like probably not good for this role, and stuff like that. And like I just look back on it now, like, dude, I was just blessed. Like Align Data Centers, when I first got there, I would call people and say, hey, it's Chris from Align Data Centers. They'd say, Allied Data what? And I'd be like, no, Aligned Data Centers. And like, there's another company called Align. There's like another one that's like Align Communications, Align Technology. So like, it was very confusing and muddled to people at first. And like, I'm cold calling these people, trying to recruit them, from very well-known names in the industry, right? Your Equinixes, Digital Realties, your Googles, your, just amazing household name type companies. And, because I was in that seat, like that's why I got to talk to so many people. And I would spend a solid, 6, 8 hours a day on the phone with these people, learning more about the industry, more about where we're going. And like, people are a little open a lot of the time. Like, you get 30, 45 minutes into an interview and people really start to open up and you learn about what, company X, Y, or Z is doing, or what they like a project they've been working on. And they think, oh, I'm just, trying to show that I have the skills and experience to get this job. But like to me, dude, it was just fascinating. Like, and I felt like I was like this hub of information flowing in and out, and like it was the most fun ever. But I enjoyed it because at my core, I am just a nerd, man. I love learning about it. I love sci-fi movies. I love, I have a real profound respect for everybody that pushes the envelope, man. Like that, proposes this new design that everybody's, it's like back to Galileo when he tried to say the sun was the center of the universe and not the earth. And, everybody, they put him in jail for it. And like, we still have those kind of minds today. They're not getting thrown in jail for it, but people are saying that's a terrible idea. That's never going to work. And then guess what? It does. So yeah, dude, it's been awesome.
You think did you ever reach a moment where you were like, I imagine it shifted, it was a paradigm shift for you, I imagine, when you started connecting with so many people, because you're like, your world gets larger, you become smaller, which is kind of a gift, right? When you start to become aware of like everybody else's life and how complex the world is. As a nuke, like you mentioned, like you're like elite. You're like, oh, I am everything, I'm capable of whatever, I'm perfect. But then, like, the second you start to gain respect for what other people do for a living in the depth of every single career field out there, it helps you take yourself a little less seriously. Maybe it helps you start living focused out there versus inside, right? It helps you to be a little more, which helps you actualize a little more, helps you take steps to do whatever you got to do because you're not so focused on your internal dialogue or something. I imagine did you kind of reach a point where you just were so connected? I mean, I imagine it was like a high, right? You're just like,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, dude. I remember speaking at my first data center event, and when I got off the stage, there was a line of people waiting to talk to me about what I had just said on stage. And I was like, I bet this is what it feels like to be a rock star, to a certain extent, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
a massive exaggeration. 10 people in line isn't the same as, a million people waiting to get into my concert. Trust me, I get that. But like for me and who I was, like it was a surreal moment and it was very cool.
Yeah.
I'm not going to deny that. And, I think, if I were to be diagnosed with something, I would say that, I have some sort of, mental, I don't know what the word is, but like, I don't know how to be fake. I am just raw and real. And like, I just tell people how it is. And like, don't get me wrong, there are good and bad ways to deliver that message. But like, just today I was on like a little bit of a career coaching call with a veteran that reached out to me, and I said, usually I would charge people for this, but because I know you, let's do it. And we're running through some questions, and that's a terrible answer, I said to him, right? And and it's true, and it was. And he called me later after the interview, and he said, "Man, I'm so glad you told me that was a terrible answer, because that exact question came up." And he's like, and they loved the answer. And like, I tell everyone, don't ever lie or be disingenuous, but like, there is a way to deliver the message that's better than the way that you're doing it right now. So like, my friends would tell you that I'm on the spectrum, right? I'm still best friends with the two of the first guys I met at my elementary school. So what, I was 8 years old when I came to Ohio, and I met them, and now I'm 36. So 28 years of friendship, and they would probably tell you like I'm somewhere on the spectrum, right? But I like to think that being normal is a little boring, and it's something I emphasize with my kids. Like, don't feel like you have to fit into the mold of the world. Just be true to yourself and be a good person, and like, things will just work out for you. And like,
Yeah.
dude, I was never religious for 30 some years. I didn't grow up going to church or being exposed to religion. And one day I woke up, and I was looking at my ceiling, and I said, I gotta thank someone for this, because I don't know that I necessarily deserve it. But like, at the end of the day, my philosophy's just always been, just do the right thing, be good to people, and like, eventually it'll pay off. And like, I very much believe in karma. I don't rack up bad karma. I don't participate in gossiping about people or bad mouthing someone or anything. But I'll also tell you like it is, man. If you want the hard truth, and you want to know what I really think, like, the kind of the way like you were tiptoeing around asking me a question, like, I don't get embarrassed. I'm so hard to offend, because and like, it all goes back, I don't know where I found this saying, who said it to me or what, but somebody once said to me, um, stop taking life so seriously. You're never going to get out alive. And I was like, that dude, that's crazy.
That's a
Like,
beautiful
what a
quote.
profound little sentence. Like, you are never going to get out alive. Like, stop taking it so seriously.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, dude, I think I'm becoming a little bit wise now. Like, I was always intelligent. I was never street smart. I'm still not street smart today, but I feel like I'm getting a little wise.
Same. In a way that, like, this I don't really care about things I used to care about, as far as like appearances, perceptions of others, even making mistakes myself, all that good stuff. I think it all correlates to the wisdom of just live and do your best and don't take things too seriously. Man, what a great quote you just shared, man. I think I'll throw that in the tag underneath the video if there's anything valuable I've got for this chat with you, I think it's that quote. I'll have to think on it. It's obvious what it means, but man, it's powerful.
Yeah.
How cool.
And it's fun to think about maybe Brian Johnson or Elon Musk living forever. Are you familiar with Brian Johnson?
Yeah, I am, dude. I
Yeah,
gotta.
the blueprint guy. He wants to live to be 150, and he's
Yeah,
doing everything that he can to do it. And like, there was a time in my life where I wouldn't have wanted that. Like, I would not have wanted that. But now it's like a really cool thing to think about because I think about if I 5x'd myself right now and I knew 5 times the amount of stuff I know today, like I would still only know less than 1% of everything. But
yeah,
man, would I know a lot. And like,
yeah,
early in my career in recruiting, I didn't put a lot of importance on years of experience because, like, I'm like, hey, if you can be a high performer and do the job, you should get the promotion and things like that. But now that, like, when a situation comes up that you've seen once before, how much easier it is to navigate. Like, hold on a second. Like, I've been
yeah,
here, done this before.
yeah,
Here's what we're going to do. Let's just navigate through this. It's not even a big deal, right?
dude. I
There
bet you
is a
love
lot.
being a dad, dude. I bet you love being a dad.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude. It is my favorite thing. And by happenstance, I became a youth coach. So like
Yeah,
I've coached youth sports for years, and like I was never that dad that like set out to be the team's coach, right? So that my son could get playing time or my daughter would get special treatment or anything
right.
like that. But like I got asked to coach or I fell into coaching. Just this past basketball season, I ended up coaching 2 teams because my niece has the same last name as me, and I was already coaching my son's team, and my niece's coach backed out in the 11th hour, and the YMCA here called me and they said, "Hey, do you know so and so Dove?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course, that's my niece." And they were like, "Well, she doesn't have a coach for her team. Do you want to coach?" And I'll tell you, man, coaching 4 to 7 year olds is a whole other ball game
Yeah.
from coaching, people, kids that are older. And like that was a good experience. But yeah, dude, I
How,
think
how do
if
you not
I could,
cross the parenting line? How do you not cross that line? You being a coach, like how do you not? Because you're basically influencing these kids. Like that's real, right?
oh, and dude, I think that's the part I love the most about it. If you
Yeah,
want me to
yeah,
be honest with you,
yeah.
at my core, so I was at the eye doctor within the last 30 days. And a woman came over to me and she said, "Hey, like I don't," she said, 3 years ago you
Yeah.
coached my son in football and
Mm,
he still talks about you, and
cool.
he's never been more motivated or played as hard as when he played for you. And she was just like, "Thank you." And I was like,
Cool, brother. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I think back, so like some of my coaches and teachers from youth, like you remember these things that they say or they did, and like it
Yes.
kind of sticks with you. And like that was always in my head, was like, because like
Man.
I wasn't a great athlete. I went to a tiny school and I still wasn't a starter in most sports. Like,
Dude.
you know what I mean? But I loved sports. I loved hanging out with my friends. I loved working towards a common goal and things like that. And winning
Right.
is a lot of fun. But I was never that great athlete. But I had
Man.
coaches that cared, and I had some teachers that cared, and they still stick with me. I looked up my calculus teacher not long ago just to see if she was still alive, because man, if I would have just heeded all of her advice and like listened to
Mm,
her more, because like she did try to help me, because I was a little bit of a troubled youth. I spent some time in, the juvenile detention center. I had a little bit of a criminal record before I turned 18 and things like that. Um, and like just the people that tried to help me, and were there for me. And like, I want to be that to every kid, because
somebody.
like,
Isn't that a
here's
wonderful
my
thing, brother?
philosophy. What's that?
Isn't that a wonderful thing? Those people who like see the troubled youth, because like a lot of adults, and I see these people. They'll look at a kid who's like, I don't know what's the threshold, man. It's like anybody under 12 is just a troubled youth, but anybody over 12 is a little bastard or something. Like they'll say horrible things about kids. And in all honesty, like we're all just humans trying to figure it out. But especially people with underdeveloped brains, you shouldn't be holding them personally accountable for their actions. So, man, talk about thankfulness. You when you were talking about coaches having impact on kids, I had one in football who I was like a decent lineman, but
You were a lineman?
I was tiny. Well, I was huge when I was a big second, third, fourth, fifth, all the way through like junior year of high school. I was a lineman. I was guard or tackle. And then I just got too small over time, right? But I was pretty darn good for, whatever that measure is of a kid. But I had one guy who, I think it was like fifth grade, and he saw that I just kind of lacked confidence. And the things he would say to me, the second you brought up that coach that makes an impact on a kid, the guy was so encouraging and so like, it didn't matter if he was good. It was like he just knew how to motivate me to be my best. And man, I haven't thought about that guy in years, but the second you thought about that, making that impact and having a parent come up to you, that guy made a huge difference, like a huge difference in me. You kind of just switched my programming on what it takes to be a coach. And just like you mentioned about kind of living life, putting out good karma and doing good and just being authentically good, you probably aren't worried too much about crossing boundaries of parenting while you're coaching because you're a good actor, right? So I imagine you're not really doing anything. If somebody misconstrued something you did as like, don't talk to my kid about X, you'd probably just fix it for that individual kid. But I think you're probably doing good overall, which means you have good replies, good outcomes.
I will say I've been very fortunate with great parents.
Yeah.
And like, you'll have some of those kids whose parents are super hands-on, and you have some who's, super hands-off. And I don't think there's necessarily a right or a wrong way to parent, to an extent, obviously. But like, think of some of the most successful, awesome people that are adults now. And like a lot of them, had troubled childhoods or trial by fire or things like that. So like, I don't view that kid that maybe, is a little troubled right now as like a lost cause at all, right? That person might turn the corner and become the great, like David Goggins.
It was you, brother, right?
I'm a small example of that, right? I don't think anything I've done is going to get me on a Mount Rushmore of anything, or I didn't turn into a billionaire because I was so driven from growing up poor or anything. But yeah, I think I did really well for myself, given the situation. And I've had other people comment on it, like, we thought for sure you would be dead or in jail by now, and instead, like, I see you here coaching my kid because like I'm back where I grew up, and like I coach people that knew me before, and I coach their kids, and like they might have a certain mindset coming in of, oh Lord, like this is our coach, but and then I just kill them by kindness and leading, by example, and everybody comes around eventually. And I think I've had that trouble, and like kind of how we talked about when you're younger and you're smart, you want to let people know how smart you are and stuff like that. And like I was very much that arrogant asshole, man. I don't sugarcoat it in any shape or form. I think all the way up until like 25 or 28 years old, I was an immature, arrogant asshole, and I thought I had it figured out, and I thought I was so smart. And I got a decent story that is AI, data center, and crypto related that was so freaking humbling, man. So there's this super genius of a man named Phil Lawson Shanks. He was the CTO of Aligned Data Centers. I had flown in for my first week at Aligned, and on my first day, my boss, the head of HR, Katie, took me out to dinner. And I'm only going to drop Phil Lawson Shanks because he is pretty much a famous guy, like very well known everywhere, speaks everywhere. But so I go to dinner and I don't know who he is, but I'm sitting across from him, and there's four of us, and we're talking about crypto and Bitcoin. And someone asked, like, how does the blockchain work? And I remember speaking over Phil freaking Lawson Shanks to explain how smart I was about this stuff, man. And then the next day I go into a meeting, and there he is, the CTO of the company. And I'm like, oh my God, I was just mansplaining to this guy that's way like but
He didn't say a
The
thing, right?
reason I have a profound respect for him is because he didn't stop me. He didn't let me know I know everything you just said and 100 million times more. He just let me talk, man. And like that's now the person I want to be, where I don't need to be the one talking. I don't need to let people know I'm smart, or and like I definitely think, I used to think I was up here, and like now I'm like, oh, you're somewhere down here, buddy. Like, the world's a big place. There's a lot of smart people, and I think something I
Yeah.
learned was smart or intelligence comes in so many shapes, sizes, and forms.
The Dunning-Kruger effect. You've heard this, I'm sure, at this point.
Tell me.
Well, let me mansplain to you how Dunning-Kruger works. No, it's basically it's a giant ramp up, almost like a pump and dump on a stock, and then it dips down. What this is, it's like your arrogance to your knowledge. So your arrogance goes up like this. Knowledge is like still zero, and then you reach a peak of like knowledge. A peak of arrogance while your knowledge is still like nothing, and then you get humbled like crazy, and then your just confidence drives even below the further down than baseline, and then eventually you reach that same arrogance. Well, I don't think on the curve you ever reach that same level of arrogance again, or confidence, I guess. But this is like an effect in general when it comes to any learning initiative. You just start off on fire. You're like, this is real. This is happening. It's happened to me a couple times in my life. And then you end up reaching a point where you're actually competent and actually confident at the same time. But for a long time, you're in a valley of confidence, which is a good place to be because, like you can't just go on continuing to being the idiot who just like spouts off whatever. It's just not sustainable. It's not good for the world. It's definitely not good for yourself. Some people, I think, continue to do this for a long time.
Oh, 100%. Self-awareness is one of the best qualities a human can have, I think. And just
Yeah.
like knowing who you are, knowing how you're affecting the people in the world around you, and just like being self-aware. And yeah, there's a lot of humans that need to brush up on that.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about your childhood in Ohio. I was also raised in Canton, Ohio.
Oh, really? The Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And I moved to Tennessee when I was young. I don't want to dive into your childhood like this is cognitive behavioral therapy or something, but I do want to ask, formative moment for you, man. Like, what I you mentioned something earlier. I'll kind of call back to it. You were talking about, everything in your life being negative, and then as soon as you start looking for the positive, not only do you start to see it in the present, but you then also get to look back into your past, into darkness, and you start to see little pieces of light that just weren't visible before. Like for instance, because I'm open right now, you talk about coaching. I look back into what I'd consider like maybe a dark part of my childhood, but I see that coach. So like you look back in your childhood and you're like, oh, that is formative to me now. I might have been not able to see it when I was younger and still, delinquent, whatever. But now that you're like evolved into somebody who's positive, good karma, whoever you are today, maybe you look back and see something that was like formative. I want to hear about that, if you can think of something.
There's a lot that comes to mind. And I don't know that it's podcast appropriate, so feel free to edit it out.
No editing. As long as you feel comfortable sharing it, it's going to live.
So that's the problem with me, and like it bothers my wife and my kids so much, is like I don't know like what embarrassment is, because like I don't think that you should feel ashamed or embarrassed about anything that you did, because it plays into who you are today. And as long as you're good with who you are today, who cares, right? So
yes,
when I was in the 4th grade at Twin Elementary School in Ross County, Ohio, I discovered that there was a teacher molesting other kids in my class. And this, comes to light. And I was I put a feather in my cap for this, that I took down a pedophile at the age of 9, right? I was 9 years old and I took down a pedophile, and half a dozen of my very best friends had to move away because of the the fallout from this. But it, like, looking back on it now, here's the story. So I, like, this guy had somehow gotten away with it for 30 freaking years, and I was that loud, like, over dramatic, arrogant kid. And as soon as I thought there was something up, I started wailing like a banshee to everyone that would listen to it. And the moment I told my mother about it, like, she went off the rails. Like, we had a really dramatic situation at the school. Cops were called, not because of the pedophile, but because of the way me and my mother were acting, because, like, we were so up in arms over this. And
Yeah.
we blew the lid off of this freaking thing, man. And then I was the only kid that was resilient enough to testify against this person in open court. None of the victims ended up testifying, and, like, the entire case kind of hinged on my testimony. And it's funny because you can Google it and it comes up immediately on Google as the very top search, because it's studied in case law, and stuff like that now. So I took this mofo down, and guess what happened to me the next year in 5th grade? They put me in his wife's class. So I take down this piece of crap pedophile, Harry Arnold, and the next year in 5th grade, I don't think anything of it. I walk in there like, I don't give a shit, right? Because, like, I didn't do anything wrong. I think, if anything, that's the most right thing I ever did. And I go strolling into the 5th grade. This woman hates my guts, because she probably was still in denial that it didn't happen, or, it's being misconstrued or whatever. I'm pretty sure she ended up sticking by him, and, he never got any jail time. He ended up taking a plea deal to just give up his teaching license forever. And like,
This
he
is all
got away
public
with it pretty
information, yeah.
scot-free. The school district got hit with a huge price tag on the lawsuit that came with it. And the teaching assistant my 5th grade year is his daughter. So you have a whole family of these educators, and for whatever reason, no adult in this system. And, like, I kind of look back on it to, like, a sign of the times, because, like, parents were a lot more hands-off then. I would never allow this to happen to any of my kids.
It would
Are you
not happen
kidding me? You're
today.
going to put him in his wife's class now? Like, this is crazy. But, like, I had a pretty rough 5th grade year, but, like, to me, it was just like, it wasn't nothing, man. It was rain rolling right off. Like, I didn't care. But it all culminated one day when I'm absent from school. And, like, my friends ended up immediately calling me after school and telling me this, right back when we still had home phones. I'm absent from school, and Miss Arnold says, "That's it, CJ Dove, go to the office. I'm so sick of you acting this way." And, like, goes off on, like, a 30-second tirade about how horrible of a kid I am. And everyone quietly is like, CJ's not here today. So, like, dude, looking back on that now, like that was just, like, that's just who I've always been. Like, I'm gonna do the right thing in every moment, because, like, that's my moral compass, man. And, like, I'm gonna be true to myself, and, like, I don't care what the backlash or the fallout is. Like, it's gonna be nothing, a year from now, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. And, like, it changed the lives of so many kids. And, like, kids from the 90s and the 80s started coming out and being like, yeah, that dude was bad, right? And, like,
Dude.
no one else ever had the courage or the audacity or the wherewithal to bring it up. Like, most kids just moved away, and, this predator preyed on people, and, like, I'm the mother trucker that took him down, man.
So,
like,
the lesson is, like, so you might have done it you were, like, you say you were gossipy and loudmouthy and attention seeking a little bit. So you said it, but you said it. So you did the right thing. And so the lesson is what? Like, doing the right thing in matters of that thing makes you basically Teflon, right? In life.
yeah.
Like, you don't have to walk around meek and afraid, worried about repercussion, whatever, because if you're right, if you do what is correct, then you're almost untouchable in a way. Now, maybe somebody can punish you. Maybe somebody can make your life hell, but you mentally can be fine, right?
Yeah. And, like, dude, I like look back on it and I'm like, how did I survive that year? Right.
Yeah.
And, like, what a crazy thing to happen to a kid. Like, a 1 in a billion chance that his wife is even a teacher and that she's a teacher at the next grade level, and that they would have the stupidity to put me in her class and like expose me to this. And like the fact that like I did fine and I moved right on to the 6th grade and it wasn't shit to me. I was probably more worried about what girl I liked, or passing notes, or trying not to get suspended. Because like, don't get me wrong, like I was a troubled youth, but like I in like a way that like my teachers and stuff still liked me, even though they had to send me to my office because I couldn't stop talking, or I told like a nasty joke or something. I'll never forget. Like when the internet first came out and we got a home printer, I printed all these dirty jokes off and I brought them into school and I got suspended for that. Like that's the stuff I did, right? I wasn't like you know, doing anything too crazy, but yeah, man, like that's who I was, and like that's who I'll probably always be a little bit. And like to this day, like I don't care what the repercussions are. I'm gonna do what I think is right in that situation, and I'm not gonna play the game.
What would you say to people who are afraid because it might cost them their careers, it might cost them money, right? That's the thing, man. We talked earlier about being free of the chains of money or the need of money. What would you say to people who like are tempted to do the right thing, or speak up, or represent what is correct, but they're afraid of losing something?
Um, that you're a coward, and if you can live with being a coward, that's fine. Some people can, but like I would rather be
Shit, dude.
poor and destitute or have to start over than be untrue to myself and who I am. And like I'm a little bit of a wild card in that regard.
Dude, you want to argue? You want to make this thing viral? Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's have people
Nah,
come.
dude.
Like what I mean, dude. Honestly, it's a wild story. And you know,
Well,
I
let me
hope
speak. Let
nobody.
me interrupt you and speak over you to start this argument. I'm just kidding, dude. But dude, you cannot call people a coward for this. Like, life is hard as hell, man. Come on. Like,
It is hard, but if you are afraid to speak up or speak your mind because of some man-made, system of money or finances, or it's going to make my life harder,
it's
then
food in
at
your
the end,
mouth, brother. It's
and
food in your mouth.
I
It's
don't pretend that I'm not a coward in some situations. Like there was a little period for me where I thought I might be on the wrong side of history with data centers. That I might actually have spent the last 7 years of my life propagating an industry, supporting an industry, propelling an industry forward that does result in the destruction of mankind. I'll be honest and transparent about that.
sure.
I've tussled morally sometimes that there is a possibility that I'm on the wrong side of history, right? And that's kind of you talk about legacy and things, and like it doesn't matter what our legacy is in 100 years from now. No one's going to talk about us. Like our great grandchildren aren't going to talk about Craig and Chris, probably, right? There's very
Maybe.
very few, less than one hundredth of a percent of people whose legacy outlasts 100 years, right? Like
Yeah.
even like you think when Kobe Bryant died, right? Like, dude, I was freaking sad. Like I loved Kobe Bryant, I was freaking sad. But like 100 years from now, will anyone even talk about Kobe? Like, do
No.
people even talk about Elvis dying anymore? But like to our parents, like that was like crazy,
Mm.
and stuff like that. So like I don't worry too much about that. um
So what? I mean, but death though. I'm talking about like, yeah, not having a bed to sleep on, not having food to put in your mouth, not being able to feed your family because you did what is right. How do you rectify that? I have to challenge this because A, it's really good conversation, and I'm totally open to your perspective. So it's not a judgment thing. It's that I want to hear how you think, dude. How do you possibly consider yourself a coward for sacrificing integrity in order to feed your family? You know?
because I'm a weirdo, and I don't
Nah, dude.
pretend to be in the majority in
You're
that
not a weirdo,
regard.
bro. Come
But
on.
like I think my dignity and my integrity is all that no one can take from me. They can take my house, they can take this webcam, they can take my friends, things like that, but like they can't take my integrity and my dignity from me. And at the end of the day, like I am like, this is
Mm.
going to sound weird and people are probably going to think I'm even weirder than they do already, but
I love
I
it, dude. Thank you for your transparency. Please.
I, ever since I became a parent, I can absolutely not rack up bad karma because I think that the world and the, everything knows that I don't care too much about me, but there's nothing I care about more than my kids. And I just feel like it would manifest into a problem with one of my kids.
Mm.
And like that is my greatest fear in life as a man and a father, is that something would happen to one of my kids. And I
Right.
know a couple of people who have lost a kid, and like I don't know how you move on from that. And like
Mm.
that would break me. It would turn me into a shell of a person. I don't know that I would ever recover. I think that would bring me as close to suicide, or it might make me commit suicide. So like when I said like you're a coward, I don't mean that rudely. I mean it because like I've been a coward before. There's times where I've shut the hell up and not, spoken out because it would just
Same.
cause me more headache and more grief.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I don't think you can define it anything as anything other than cowardice, right? Because you're literally
Yeah.
afraid to do what you think you should do because of what you might lose.
Right. Yeah. So let me agree with you completely here, because like I'm getting a tattoo about autonomy, and like you said, nobody can take away your integrity. So really, like you shouldn't have attachment towards things you have no control over. I could die tomorrow, but until that very moment, I don't. Like you said, man, everything can be taken from you in a minute. That's material, but the things that live inside of your brain, at the core of yourself, even if you had a degenerative brain disease, you likely would not lose the ability to be integritous or be honorable and be correct. So I love what you just said, dude. I think a huge thing that gives people freedom is the internal freedom. Like, because freedom is defined, I now draw the parallels to how you think about money. So you're like, screw money, because you don't need money to do the right thing, to think properly. And how you think and how you act is yours and yours alone. You don't need money for that. So you're saying that you'd rather be 100% in control of your actions and do the good thing, the right thing, the things that have good karma, and nothing else really matters as much, right? Is this what you're saying?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think at the end of the day, I would rather live with myself, being true to myself and doing what I think is morally and ethically right, than I would rather live in a beach house or a mansion doing what's morally or ethically wrong.
Hell
And
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe one day it pays off for me and I get the best of both worlds. But
Right.
I was having a conversation with someone last week, and we were talking about, we never thought we would be at this point in life. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I kind of semi-retired in between stream data centers and my new role. And you know, that like really gave me perspective on what's important. And like, I have an elderly father who has dementia, and he's on his last leg, and he's on his way out. And I think he would even agree with me that like none of it really means anything, like the material stuff, like all
Mm.
of that, right? So like I had like me and my friend are kind of at the same place as far as like finances, and I want to retire and just take it easy and spend more time with human connection and mentoring and developing my kids. And like I probably annoy my kids because like I consider them like my best friends, and like I love hanging out with them. I love making them watch old movies that I liked as a kid and stuff like that. But like he wants to buy a beach house and continue working and make even more money. And I'm just like, dude, at what point is enough? Like, you know what I
Dude.
mean? I would rather just be free to do whatever I want with 100% of my time than own 100 beach houses or to buy a yacht and stuff. And like, I do think I'm maybe in the minority there, right? Because like there's all kinds of people in this industry that could absolutely retire and live, very moderately, or there's some that could even live a better lifestyle than I live today working, right? But like, I think that I would prefer to live in moderation. And like, don't get me wrong, if I didn't have kids, man, I would have already retired, like
Yeah.
100%. But like, to keep providing for them and giving them the life that they want, because I think adulthood sucks. like no matter what you're doing, like the responsibilities and everything that comes with adulthood, like it kind of sucks. Like the happiest time for anyone is like when you're carefree and stress free in your youth, right? Like um I'll
Man,
never
yeah.
forget being stress free, having $500 that I made in a week, and then going and blowing it all on something stupid, and not caring that
Yeah.
I had $0 because like the next day I would wake up and I would make more money or
Yeah.
whatever, and then
Shout out to Ohio. I did this. I had $1,000 or something like that to my name, and I was like, I got everything I need. Took my current wife to Cedar Point, and like, just I had not a care in the world, man. Yeah, responsibility's tough. I still think adulthood is better than childhood, at least for me. But because I don't know, man. I got to question you there. Like you, so you mentioned like your bad childhood in terms of you being like a bad actor, or can you really even be when your brain's not fully developed? But like, um, don't you find immense comfort in your worldview now, like in the fact that you like, or is it just the responsibility aspect and the obligations and stuff like that?
no, I
Like,
just think you enjoy life more because, like, now that you're older, even if you're reflective, even if you're wise, right? Like, you're like, I worry about things, and
what's
like, I
missing,
don't.
brother? What's missing for you? Like, how could it possibly
There's
be?
nothing missing, and I don't want it to be taken that way. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
articulating properly, but I think from like birth, because like I see the childhood whimsy in my 5 year old, and like the way she
Mm,
views things, and like they had that show, Kids Say the Darndest Things, because of like the way they view stuff and don't know stuff, and like ignorance is absolutely bliss, and then you grow older and you realize like your own government is allowing food companies to poison your food supply with all these
yeah.
chemicals that are now in all the foods at the grocery stores, and
Do you
the
worry on behalf of
medical
yourself, or is it
system.
mostly your children?
What's
Like,
that?
do you worry on behalf of yourself or mostly your children, or is it just existential? Like, because I think,
um I think it's on behalf of the kids, yeah.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
like
fair
my
enough.
philosophy has always been like, I don't care whose kid it is. If I have the opportunity to make their life better in that moment, I'm gonna take it. Like I don't care if it's the last dollar I have. If
Yeah.
that kid, like, you know what I mean? Because like I don't know. Maybe you're onto something. Maybe I do need to see a psychologist. Because
No,
I
I will say the one thing I could tell you that I think is good. Uh, dude, last podcast I said objectively. I said that word like 1,000 times. I'm trying not to say it at all. But one thing that is correct, or that I think I'm onto something, is, and I'll tell you very, very powerfully, is that you worrying about things you have limited control over is literally a waste of your headspace, dude.
so bad.
Like we are gonna die, but we all have just accepted that, so you don't worry about it every day. Some people do, but like things that you just accept as, I have no control over that, it's inevitable. When you're a child, you're immortal. At some point, you're like, oh shit, yeah, I'm not gonna live forever. Like nobody does. I'm probably part of that equation, and then you like come to terms with that. But like you having control over, I'll tell you what, brother. So two things: you have no control over what happens with AI, but you do. You are such a small piece of that puzzle. For people who like, and this is maybe something I'll just expose myself. Like, I'll vote, but I don't really think about it too much. I mean, I'll do my research to make the vote, but I only put as much headspace into it as the result is. Meaning, like, I'm like a drop in the ocean of votes. And depending on where I live, it might matter even less or matter even more. So I don't stress. I'll study, but I won't like stress about it after the fact because I have no control over it. So I'm like, you worrying about things you don't have control over because your kids will see that, people will see that, and that like existential stuff, maybe they'll start worrying about it too. So like, you and everybody should try not to worry about stuff that they have no control over. I think you do it honestly. Some people will do it. They'll focus on something they have no control over as a way to trick themselves into not focusing on something they do have control over. So last podcast, shout out to podcast number 1, got 100 views. This one maybe more. I'll edit it to get rid of the no sound part. But what you're doing right now is influencing the world, dude. When you're talking to me, you're influencing me. You talking about your integrity is the only thing you have. That speaks to my soul. I think to speak to the existentialism you have about, am I contributing to something that's going to end the world? The truth is, it's a technology, which means like us humans, we can push that pendulum one way or the other.
Yes.
The conversation we're having right now is influence about integrity, doing the right thing. That stuff will program AI. The initiatives that we partake in or the way that we use the tool influences the outcome. So like what we're talking about right now, the utopia, that stuff, if you put it out to the universe, if you look at Star Trek Next Generation, that might inspire you of what the future should be, and therefore you act in a way that like makes that come true. So like your very mindset and the human that you are, brother, I'm so glad I got to talk to you. This thing is, what we're at right now is how this shit's supposed to be. But what we're talking about right now is influence. We're influencing each other and we're influencing anybody who listens. And that's a good thing to do, because if you're a good actor, it will result. If enough people, if that propagates out, that will result in that better life, that better reality, that better use of AI, that better outcome. So, yeah, man, you shouldn't worry about like what happens because you have no control over it. The thing you
I
do have
100% agree with you. And Bill Burr has a great quote. I wish I could remember it exactly. But yeah, dude, worrying about something that hasn't happened yet or something that you have no control over is a absolute complete waste of time. I wish that I spent no time on it and I lived happy and carefree. And maybe that's why I view, adulthood this way, is because I do worry about too much. But like at the end of the day, man, I told you at the beginning of the podcast, I became, saved by God, not from hitting rock bottom. A lot of people's turning point was hitting rock bottom and then finding. But I woke up one day and I said, "Man, am I blessed?
Yeah,
Life is good." Like I would say 90% of people in the world might want to trade places with me. And like that's pretty cool to say, man. Like I've got the family, I've got the career, I've got the house, like I'm just fulfilled. And like maybe I'm too blessed that like I don't like I'm not striving towards anything now. Like right. So now I get to go on podcasts like this and find other purpose, and like I get to do, a lot of like it's like a crazy amount of freedom. And maybe 5 years from now we'll talk again and I'll be like, man, you were right. Adulthood rules. Now that I've cut out this noise, right? Signal and noise, right? I'm cut, like if I cut out the noise, I do like, dude, it's so cool to be alive right now. And it goes back to that nerdy aspect. Like I could hop on a plane and fly anywhere. That's cool. But I could also like virtual reality into a lot of cool places. I could meet a guy 3 hours ago and be on a podcast with him for 2 hours now. Like,
you play any video games, man?
Oh yeah.
What VR games?
My son plays VR games. I played one VR game with him, and those kids beat my butt so bad that I was like, bro, I'm not getting back on this. But yeah, like I've always been a little bit of a nerd that way and played video games and
But back to tech and the cool time to be alive, man. Yeah. You need purpose. My dog, so when people talk about AI and being worried about it taking over and being the smartest thing or the better thing or the top dog, I'm like that's cool, because I had a cool golden retriever who he carried a stick and that gave him purpose and he was happy. He's dumber than me. His hips were bad. Maybe he was like less. He obviously lived a tenth of my lifetime or whatever. But that dog was happy as hell, and he didn't have to be the best creature on earth to do it. So
he couldn't care less.
Yeah. So my point
is,
as
long as he was a good boy to you,
and as long as you have purpose, who gives a shit if AI is better? So like, yeah, man, I think obviously you need to find purpose in something, dude. Or you need your own thing, right? Like, but damn, dude, I'm jealous in a way though, because like, to me, I'd be fired up of being on camera like this, even if the viewership was 0. Putting yourself out here, like,
I just hit my desk.
Dude, you got one of those spring-loaded seats that you see in cartoons?
No, I'm just I'm a clumsy guy.
No, but like doing something like this, even the fact that you're so transparent and even willing, I think like if I keep doing this, week after week, focus on improving quality, it will inevitably become successful or have a good viewership, and people will be wanting to get on as guests for, cloud or something. I don't know. But the fact that
Have you ever looked at the story of Mr. Beast?
I have actually, yeah. But
So
like,
he literally posted the other day how many views he got per year from like the year he started, and like, yeah, dude,
it was
everybody
like
starts
nothing.
somewhere. I
Yeah.
don't
So my point
I
is,
don't
dude,
know that I would
you
ever want that spotlight on me, right? I don't know that I would ever want that level of
no that
fame or
no.
notoriety, but
My point
just
is, my point is, brother, you are here right now doing something that it's crazy. Everything is relative because like the fact I'm stoked, the fact that you're even here, and I think you should be stoked by the fact that you're a human who's so like you've got it figured out enough that you're willing to jump on camera unscripted. That's a rare thing, dude. If there's not anything attached to it, people are very hesitant to do this, dude. So like, and it's funny because you might have reached that level, but you still need to be progressing towards something, dude. You need a hobby. You need a hobby.
I've been thinking about golf.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell
So
yeah.
yeah, no, and I do agree with you, and I have some hobbies and stuff, but I think I'm just so blessed to have the freedom that, like,
Yeah.
especially with AI, man. So like I have a personal laptop that I've never logged into like anything serious on, like my bank accounts or like, anything that could really take the train off the tracks. But
Claude
I've
bot?
given Claude complete access to literally everything. And like I built data center facility operations training from scratch using AI, and like I would have needed like a graphic designer and all this stuff before, and like even starting my own business, Uptime Talent, man. I'm not gonna to lie and say I didn't use AI to come up with the logo and a lot of the business plan, and like I could use AI tonight to revamp the website, and like I'm not a web developer, but guess what? So like let's get on the AI train for 6 minutes. And I'm going to monologue for one of them. AI, when leveraged properly and utilized, it doesn't replace people. It makes a person like me superhuman, man. I've
Right.
always had the left brain working. I'm great at math. Ask me a mental math question. I'm great at engineering and sciences. I can barely draw a freaking stick figure. Even
Mm-hmm.
if you gave me instructions on how to, dude, I'm just like I'm musically inept too. I couldn't carry a tune in a bucket, right? But like with AI and computers and the assistance that I can get from that, I truly believe that I could probably crank out like a pretty decent song in 2026, leveraging all that. Would it be holistically original or like
Yeah.
inspirational? Probably not, but it'd probably be pretty decent. And dude, trust me, I tried to learn the guitar for my senior project. Did not take. Did not take.
I I've created a handful of songs just last night. So my wife and I have a goddaughter, and we created, or I bought a really high pro subscription to a bunch of AI services to help create the signal and noise background for the podcast, as well as the song, so it doesn't get like copyright hit whatever. And I started digging into that app, and like other AWS cloud stuff, and basically like stacked a few AI tools together, and I can pump out a really good sounding song in like a minute or two. So I like started texting all my friends. I kind of want to tell this story.
Tell it now.
All
Come
right,
on,
dude.
man. I told way too much today. You can't back out on
No,
me
no.
now.
So the goddaughter, it basically just asked their parents real quick, "Hey, what's some of her favorite things?" Real quick, they just name like 5 or 6 things that she really likes, or 2 or 3 actually, and I just throw that into the tool. My little stack automation goes back and forth between multiple tools, and the next thing you know, Suno pops out like Suno pops out like a pretty sick sounding song with like all the genres intact and like a perfect baby mix. The story, I know somebody, no name drop here, but they were at a funeral, and the wife, they're walking through the line, and it's the guy's grandma, and there's a little remembrance card that gets handed out, like a little, like, hey, a little write up, like a little obituary, a little respectful write up for her. And they walk through the line, they get back to the pew, and the wife is like, leans over to the husband, who this is his grandmother, and is like, hey, what are we supposed to do with your grandma's Pokemon card? And it lives forever now, you know? So like I made a song about that. And it's absolutely fantastic. And I might put it on Spotify with the blessing and permission of the people who it's about. But it is actually a banger, dude. The thing sounds legit. It's like,
can you play it right now? Can you play it for the audience?
No, dude, I'm not going to play it on the pod, but I will link it below if I get the blessing to put it out there. But it's gonna be sick. Yeah. If they say yes, it's happening. I'm really excited about that. But yeah, man, like you said, you can do incredible things with AI. I mentioned it very briefly, but I myself at work am using it like crazy. And I'm not talking just for like chats, because I'm like connected to really high-end cloud services, and now I have tools that help integrate with that very fluidly. So I barely even have to go to the AWS console anymore. I just like speak to AI to help do things in the cloud for me, or like provision resources and stuff like that. So it's a wild time, and it's happening so quick. And if you blink, you'll miss it. The thing is, dude, we have all the tools in the world. We have everything at our disposal to do incredible things. My resume is disingenuous, by the way. I've been wanting to change it, but it says executive. But maybe in scale, I'm an executive, but I don't have an executive role. So I've been wanting to change it. But anyway, I built that website, built my resume out, formatted it in a way. I paid somebody $1,000 to do something like that for me a couple years back. And I did it for myself in like one evening for the first time. And if I could do it for somebody else in like 15 minutes. So my point is, you have all the tools. You have everything you need for pretty damn cheap, cheaper than it will ever be. These services will ratchet up, dude. You remember when Netflix was like $10? Now,
and no $7.99. It was $7.99
and no commercials. So AI will never be cheaper to use than it is right now.
Absolutely.
So it's an amazing time. So like, if you can get over, you'll have like we talked about already. Maybe we didn't mention it, dude. The bullshit. Oh yeah, we did. Honesty. If you can stop telling yourself a story about what's holding you back in life and start to be really freaking honest with yourself, then maybe you can realize that you have every tool at your disposal for as cheap as it's ever going to be to make your freaking dreams come true or do whatever the hell you want. Because like the tools are the cheapest they're ever going to be. They're already freaking awesome. And anybody who goes around, if you go around with a bullshit story on your lips, people who love you will hear it and go, you're right. You're 100% correct. But if you tell them a bullshit story, you'll get bullshit out. Just like your prompts in AI. But like, my point is like, if you just be really honest with yourself of like, hey, I just can't wake up on time because I stay up way too late, or whatever your problem is. If it's deeper than that, then maybe start working on that. But dude, the reason you're able to be successful right now is because you are really honest with yourself, and you have no filter because you don't need one. Someone like you with the tooling that's available right now can do incredible shit. But people who always were like, oh, if only I had that one thing, now you have no excuses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No excuse.
Yeah. I'll shut up for a minute until I feel like I talked too long. But yeah, man, it's like you said, it's an incredible time to be alive.
It's funny that you say that. I thought I kind of talked too much and too long. But you might want that as a podcast host, right? Because people are going to get to know you over time. And but with it being the second episode, like people still don't know too much about you. So I try to give you a platform to also tell your stories, man.
Oh, I always yeah.
I think it's really cool that like we had never met before. We had never spoken. I'd seen you post a few times on LinkedIn.
I never posted.
You weren't even in my Facebook group that I love to promote.
Yeah, man. I think we could wrap it up, and I'll cut out the parts that suck. But overall, dude, I think we did hit on a few really cool things. I'm really excited about like the honesty and the great conversations that we had. Your story that you were willing to share, the lesson from that, dude, to call back to that of like, if you do the right thing, you will be Teflon in your mind. Just like people who go to prison who are innocent, they don't really suffer in prison because the suffering is all in your head, right? Like, they know they didn't do it, so they feel they're able to like. Now they'll have physical suffering or whatever suffering comes along with that, but dude, the worst pain in life comes from things like judgment or guilt, shit like that. That shit's hell. So like, man, your story was incredible, brother. I thank you so much for sharing that. And then, yeah, man, talking about don't take life too seriously because you're never going to make it out of this thing alive. That's also fantastic.
Never take life too seriously because you're not going to get out alive.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, that might not be true in like 50 years after people gain immortality, but I think we're going to miss that train, dude. You and I are probably headed to the ground.
I do think our kids or our grandkids might be able to get on that train of transcending. And I'm humble enough that I don't think I want to live forever. I think
I do.
I think it takes an aspect away because like when I wake up tomorrow, like I only have a finite number of days left to get shit done and do the things that I want to do and be the man that I want to be. And if I was going to live forever, man, you could procrastinate all you wanted.
I want to live forever, dude. I want to live forever. It's not going to happen, but I want to. I think
Why?
some people, because if you can find purpose, procrastination, I don't procrastinate now because of death. I procrastinate because I'm putting off something that is painful, even though the obstacle is probably the way and all that good shit. But as soon as you pursue something that gives you purpose, time disappears because it's not a factor anymore. You feel fulfilled in the moment. So I think as long as you are working towards something, even if you are around from the first time we go to Mars to the first time we go to the next planet, as long as you're working towards something or the betterment of the human race or whatever, and working on the problems that are going to come along the way, I think you could find fulfillment with a very, very, very long life. Now, people say, I don't want to live forever for a million reasons. I'm not saying they're lying. Oh, and to your point, brother, earlier about worry, some of that might be genetic. I have no judgment towards you, brother. But like my point is, some people are very valid in their reasons of not wanting to die. But I think some people say, or not wanting to live forever. But some people who say, I don't want to live forever, I think for some people it might just be a coping mechanism because you don't have a choice anyway, you know?
Right. Very much so. And especially with my father being close to death, like I do think, definitely you have to find a way to cope and make peace with that. And I have no judgment towards anyone that has to go through a traumatic experience and what they have to do to cope with it. Right. I 100% agree with you. I don't want to end on a sorry note though. It's been an exceptional experience. It's been great getting to know you. For everyone out there that actually watches it and listens, I enjoy being the person that I am, and I don't care if they think that I'm weird. Still reach out to me if you need help with anything. I think the reason I've made it as far as I have is because I just genuinely will help you, especially if it only takes 5 to 10 minutes of my time. I'm very much a people connector. And with the privilege I had of helping build Align data centers, I got to talk to so many people at so many different levels, at so many different companies, working on so many different aspects of all of this. And this is the maybe last gold rush. This might be the last industrial revolution. This might be the last time, right? NVIDIA is selling everybody shovels. OpenAI and X and AI and all these companies are giving you all you need to do whatever you want. So just pick something and go at it. And if you can't figure out how to do it, who cares? You failed, and then you move on to the next endeavor. And trust me, I'm still trying to vibe code this app game that I think is a genius idea. And it's a miserable experience. But one day, dude, I'm going to get it right. And 7 people are going to play it. And they're going to say, yeah, it's kind of fun. Dude. Right. I just, it's a special type of person. It's like the same people that were like, the internet's a fad. Email is stupid. Right. And now look at us with the internet and email. Right. Like, guys, history repeats itself. Humans are humans at the end of the day, no matter what time period you look at, right? So just like get with the program, start having some fun with it. It's a train that you can stand in front of it and get hit by it, or you can grab onto the side rail and come along for the ride.
Chris, man, good stuff, man. Thank you so much. I think you're the shit, for the record. And then also promote yourself real quick, brother. Just mention what you got going on, man. Your business, everything you care about real quick before we log off.
Part of putting all that good out into the world and being in recruiting is the hardest sales job there is, because I'm selling a human to another human, right? Whether I'm selling the candidate to a hiring team or the hiring team or the position to a candidate, it's very much a sales role. And I'm very blessed to be in electrical sales now. And guess what? When I sell power equipment, it doesn't get a choice in where it goes. It can't decide a day before their start date that it's not going to show up, right? So yeah, I mean, do whatever your passion is. If you're, and like, don't get me wrong, I went through many years of my life where that wasn't possible because you got to do what needs to be done. But go get that shit done and then do what makes you happy. You only get so many days on this earth and so much time and so many opportunities. Utilize a few of them. Go hard at something. Even if you fail, you get back up and do it again. And I think that's the fear many people won't let subside, is like, what are people going to think of me now that the whole world is connected? Guess what? They're not gonna think about you for that long. Don't think you're too important. Embarrass yourself a little. Put yourself out there. Be transparent. Be honest. There's enough fake shit out there. There's enough people being fake out there. And with AI generating it, there's way too much fake stuff out there. And back to the godfather of AI, he thinks the future is going to be people that can be authentic, that can be storytellers, because AI can't ever do that. There's something about the human element that is different, that you can't necessarily articulate it, but like, it's something that can never be copied, right? Your consciousness is something that will never be copied, no matter how close you get to it with AGI. Like, that's it. That's my spiel.
Dude.
I got nothing to self promote. My life is grand. It was great meeting you, Craig. If anybody does listen to this, the Birdman's out.
Yeah. All right. Feel free to stick around for 1 second. I'm going to cut the audio and switch over to the outro, but thanks, everyone.